Hi guys, how's it going? And today we are back with another Premiere Pro editing tutorial. This one is late, as you can see. Technically it should have been out tonight, but it should have been out last week, but I've been super busy with this project that we're actually seeing right here, which is Secrets. Give me a moment while I just turn the scrubbing off, while I move the playhead around. That so I can, yeah. So this is the behind the scenes from Secrets that we're looking at in this particular video. I'm just gonna hop these back as well. Nope, that's the trailer. Which one? You. That's the full music video, which is out on the Original Render Studios channel as of Sunday. The link will be in the description. It was also in the post. I think I shared it on the MSP Facebook page as well. There's plenty of links everywhere to it, so please do go check that out. We put a lot of time and effort into this project. That's why I took a break from doing the MSP stuff for the editing tutorials over the weekend while we were getting everything edited for its release on Sunday, as I said. So moving into this episode is going to be on colour grading. We're looking at the behind the scenes. We'll kind of show some examples with the actual Secrets video as well, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the Secrets main video, like the Secret Valentine main video. I'm going to look at just like comparison shots, like before or after type thing, to kind of get an idea of what colour grading is. I'm going to talk about what colour grading is as a start, like the two-step process of it, which is colour balancing and then colour grading. It's a two-step process, and then after that, after kind of showing some befores and afters and diving into what it is, we're going to look at how, which we're going to be using the behind the scenes for, which will be coming out tomorrow. Actually, tonight, with this edit, after I finish the colour grading tutorial, I'm going to be finalising the edit and putting this up and everything. So yeah. So to begin, let's have a look at some of the kind of significant more extreme colour grades, like this one. So if I hit press controls here and just turn off volumetric colours, you can see I'm also going to turn off the black bars because that's just added on for the cinematic effect afterwards. That's just effectively forcing an aspect ratio, if you like. This is an exact 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio from 16 to 9. Black bar crop, essentially, it's not actually cropping, and then it gives you that aspect ratio, but that's not what we're talking about today. So if we just look at, obviously now we don't have the colour grade on, this is quite flat, it's pretty desaturated, it certainly doesn't look anything like that, which is, if we look again at this shot, and look at where we started and what we've got to. Essentially what colour grading is through both steps is creating the feel of the scene that you want. So we go over to this first shot as well, which does have some pretty heavy colour grades on. Not the best frame of Lewis there, but as you can see there's quite a difference if we're looking through this shot at different points, how the grade is actually affecting it. Let's have a look at this shot. Helps if I select the right image as well. So as you can see, there's quite a difference comes from colour grading. Let's have a look. And click on that one. See, there's a huge difference in some of these shots. This one definitely saw. It's a big difference. And this one has a fair amount, I think, too. Yeah, these two are quite. And some people say like colour grading, like it's a necessary process. It's usually what I'd call the final step. I'm showing this slightly out of order, but not quite. I just felt colour grading is an appropriate next step to look at because it's very important in where you kind of put audio versus colour versus maybe like effects, which we're also going to look at briefly in this video. What order you put those in is completely like more of a personal preference than anything. So I usually colour grade last. Well, I used to anyway on my old computer before I built this PC, because of the lack of performance of the old computer I was using to edit on, and when I'm editing on my MacBook, due to them having not particularly high power and performance and whatnot. It's better to do it last because usually it ends up having to render, which you can see when I load that up, render the actual effects in. Purely because it takes quite a bit, but with my much beefier computer, I don't actually have to render the colour grades in, and still can get a smooth playback and everything. So that's why I've kind of changed the order of where I do it personally. So if we go ahead and hop over to the behind the scenes, we're just going to pick, let's say, this shot, the woodland footage is some of the best example I think, because there's a lot of potential in the shot with the colour and exposure, because it's nicely exposed, this shot, similar to the originals for these. Shots in the wood, the day was very well, because we don't use our own lighting, because we don't actually own any lights at the moment. So it's all natural light, so a lot of the lighting stuff and changes has to be done in post. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this shot, and I'm just hopping in my colour workspace. I have mine set up slightly differently to how it's set up by default, and how you set up yours is completely up to you, but I'd recommend having some scopes at the side. So here I have a histogram, which is this one, and two waveforms. I've got the parade, which is all three of those like that. So I just keep doing this until I get that back, and you can also put vector scopes in, but I don't really use vector scopes. I've never really seen a huge point to them, but some people like them, some people don't. That you have your colour spaces and all sorts of different things. You can set up everything how you want to set it up, depending on what you're specifically doing. Pulls back to RGB. There we go. So I'm just going to remove that vector scope as well, because I don't really use them. So mainly I'm looking at kind of these two, but I'm generally using that for more colour afterwards. So when we're starting a colour grade, well, to start colour grading, we are looking at the balance as a whole, and we are going to colour balance and exposure balance, or correct is another way, like colour correction. So I'm going to look at where my exposure's at, and how the waveform works is this top left is this top left, this position is this position, and so on. It's all relative to the position. So if I were to have a look at a different shot where there's some more extreme exposure, you can see over to the left of the frame, reasonably high up and along here, that's where all the left side is all up at the top, which is the highlights and whites, and if it hits that 100 or the 0 it clips, which means it is you just wait, let's show it not clipping. It's probably looking at the blacks. So you can see how if I start dragging the blacks, and if you look at this corner here, you can tell they're starting to black, because you get some true black when you hit that, but it's also losing detail. You can see there's like barely any detail in this section anymore. So return that to normal. And at the top it's similar, and as I say, it's relative, whereas the histogram, which to me is actually on the wrong angle to me, because I use Lightroom as well, where the histograms are. This point is on the left, that's on the right, but I have no idea how to rotate that, if it's possible to do that at all. Anyway, I can't see any use for it. So yeah, we'll just leave that for now, since there's no way to change that, but this is the darks, this is the light, and that's not relative to the image, like where, like locations on the image, like with this, where brighter at the top and on the left it tends to be brighter, and around here it's obviously a lot darker, hence why it's showing as darker like that. So for colour correction and exposure correction, what I'm trying to do is stop all of this from clipping. But even just by bringing the exposure down, just 0.6 on the exposure there, I've already dropped that back in. And if we bring up the blacks, so they started to clip. And usually I aim more by, not necessarily by number, usually more by appearance. I'm just generally trying to get it to a point which is roughly equal and flat with plenty of detail in the shadows and the highlights. So I've got a lot of detail to work with. I don't touch the contrast, but I set my camera to not apply any contrast or anything. And I also start to add a little bit of saturation at this point. Just add a little bit of colour in. So that's generally like my colour correction stage. It's fairly simple and quick with this, and if I need to change the white balance, then I can quite easily grab this, and that can quickly and easily change the white balance there. So if I was here to put it on the green, then yeah, as you can see, it depends where you put it as to what the white balance gets set to. You can see these sliders moving around. I'll just hit that back to 0. So I'm going to hop into creative. So this is now colour grading. This is the main point. This is the bit I like. You've got looks, and these are all different looks that you can apply to your footage, or you can look down the list. If you know what you're looking for, you can flick through and see the kind of effect it's going to apply. I really enjoy all of these film stock emulations. All of Secret Valentine was 250D Fuji 3510. Knocked back ever so actually no, it was upped ever so slightly, but for the behind the scenes I'm going to bring it back ever so slightly to probably around about 50. So as you can see, if I just flip that on and off, you can just see it's just adding some contrast, adjusting the colour balance slightly, add a touch of faded film just to bring out the shadows a bit more, sharpen the footage. I don't like to push this too far, but I like to sharpen my footage quite to some extent just to help correct for any softness that's come across, because I do manually focus which is definitely better. I prefer manually focusing, but just in case I have been a little bit inaccurate, then the sharpening can help correct for that. Then I add usually quite a bit of vibrance, unless it's supposed to be quite a dark shot and a fair amount of saturation. And then I'm going to knock this back up actually after doing that. And I think actually we're going to flick through, find one that's, there we go, that's a bit better. Then I'm going to actually hop into this and pull some magenta out of that and add some green back in, just because these sides look a bit magenta over here. So we hop back into creative, we've got the highlight and shadow tints, and I usually highlight towards the yellows and shadows towards the blues. It gets quite a nice cinematic look. And then the tint balance is just which one of those it's favouring. Push it slightly towards the highlight. Then we've got curves. These are a really great way of doing exposure. As you can see, I'm just moving things around. So similar to this, right hand side up here, this is the highlights, this is the brights, and this is the darks. So if I center that, which I usually keep one dot on this diagonal axis here to be the midtones and kind of the center point, and I'm bringing that up slightly to add a little bit more exposure into the shot. Then I'm going to drag this down. As you can see, that's just darkening things down a bit. I'll also do that up to add some contrast. And if I really want to, I can completely crush the whites essentially and crush the blacks by just dragging that in, but I don't want to do it quite that much. Saturation curve, this is a fairly similar concept. I usually just quickly spam across and click all of those. So then I can control specific colours that I want and pull out colours that I don't want really, really easily by just adjusting the saturation for those tones. You don't never want to oversaturate too much, it's very fine balance. Then I'm going to move over to colour wheels, and with this one I'm just going to push the mid-tones slightly warmer, pull the shadows slightly that, and then here I can do slight exposure again. I'm just really finely going in with these. It's very fine stuff that I do with those. HTML secondary I don't touch. You can denoise and other stuff like that in here, but I don't always do that. Especially because you can't actually see what it's doing while it's doing it. And I've never actually quite figured out, this is very new, I haven't quite figured out and played with it enough to figure it out, and I always like to add a little vignette into the shot. Never too much. And there we go. If we just go over here and just look at before and after, or if I went like this and double click, then it'll show it next to each other and you get the before and after. Okay, so now we've got this colour grade done on this shot, then we would just go over to the next one and rinse and repeat. Let's pick a shot. This is was shot on my phone as opposed to my camera, so the colour grade is going to be different because there isn't a flat option to create flat profiles, so I just bring the highlights down, bring the exposure up a little bit, saturation, bring the highlights down, bring the whites right down, the blacks up, because if we just scrub through we have points where we can see the window, so it's just to stop that overexposing too much. There we can add just a touch of saturation. I'm not going to add any kind of effect here, right? Add some little bit of sharpening, add some more colour just gently, and add some tint in there. Add a contrast with that. Excuse me, add a small vignette, and then we can see it's only very small, but it's just like a little bit more balanced exposure. There's more detail there, especially when it comes to like outside. If you look outside, there's a lot more colour. It looks a lot more vibrant, a lot happier, a lot nicer. And essentially that is colour grading. That's about as in depth as you can get with it. It's very specific to the shot. I can't really teach or really explain how to colour grade, like what to do while colour grading. It's just playing with sliders and finding something you like. As I said, there's all sorts of different options in here that you can add to create different effects, depending on what the effect you try to achieve is. Some are more extreme than others, some are quite subtle. Something like that, these are black and white sepia type tones. So there's all sorts of stuff in among colour grading that you can do. Next I'm going to look at is actually we're going to be diving across into a different application for this, which is titling. So these titles are created in Premiere as kind of fitted in for each day of shooting. What I want to do is create ones that kind of are similar but move from After Effects. So let's hit save here. I'm going to open up After Effects. And then it's going to give me this. I'll open up Secret Valentine. Or actually, this is the end credits, which I will actually look at before too long without a composition there. So I'm just going to quickly rename that credits. New composition, duration, 5 seconds. Okay. So for this, we've just got the blank. What I want is checkerboard. Actually, no, I don't. I want black. So what I'm going to do here is also I'm going to open up Photoshop to actually create the original title, because I prefer the text creation stuff from within Photoshop. So just open this up. Got new. Not gonna name it yet. Then let's create a background. So do a black with a colour. So do that. Grab the gradient. Give it that kind of gradient. find somewhere that's roughly the center and drag that out. So there we go, we got that. And then we want text, which is just the text thing there. I'm just going to drag out the box and type there 1. Swap that into the font for Secret Valentine, which I downloaded from Typekit, which is something I get part of being paying for Adobe Creative Cloud. Where is it? Reclaim script. There it is. Just the sizing. Adjust this box to fit it as tightly as possible. So as tight as it can go. Try that again, there we go. Grab it, center it, scale it up, holding shift and T to be about that. So grab it, and now don't do that. Hit V. Now I'm gonna right click and click blending options. This is where the fun begins. So for start, select bevel and emboss on it. Actually, I don't want bevel and emboss. I want a stroke. I want an edge shadow. I want inner glow. I want color overlay. I want outer glow. I want drip shadow. I don't want outer glow. Inner glow, outer glow, no stroke. Shadow, yes. Inner shadow. Well, color overlay first, look at this, and I want that to be just a bit short of white, kind of there. Then I want the inner glow to be stark white. Like so. Like so, just to add like an in-depth there, then look at the outer glow and swap that to be black. And up it somewhat. Okay, our glow's not working properly, so we just need a stroke. Which I'm going to move to the outside, like so. And then I want the inner shadow, like that. And I'll pass it down quite a bit. The chalk be quite large. That come in. Bring the chalk down, like so. Then I want the full drop shadow, which I'm going to put a bit of a distance on it. Move it at an angle like so. And now we've got that. I'm just going to save that into Secret Valentine, Photoshop files, and call it day 1. Hit save. Click OK. Go back into After Effects. Double click over here. Then we can go to Secret Valentine, Photoshop files, grab the day 1. Choose layer. Do it again. Hit choose layer. You want. Okay. Drag these both into composition below. Then we've got that. Now we can start playing around. So what I want to do here is bring up transformed for this, and I'm going to say position scale, opacity, then I'm going to scale this, no, that's position, scale this right down to small, 0 opacity, then I'm going to go forward to about 12 frames in, and have the opacity come in, about a second in, and up the scale. About that. Okay, that's not, I want it a lot slower than that. So at the start, let's make that maybe 70 with 2% on that, with no 0. Then about 6 frames in, make that 100. That's just going to gently maybe drag that out about that. Just let that fade in. And from there, scale 70. Make that 102. Then I'm just clicking at random points. I'm going to kind of make it just pulsate until we get to probably the 5-second point, which is at the end of this timeline. After Effects, it's fairly simple. It's just keyframing. These keyframes, they are just noted frames where there's a change. Essentially, I'm just going to drag this about until we get kind of a rough effect. This should kind of pulse. And around here, I'm just going to set that to 100 and leave it there. Let me just watch that back. It's a little bit too mad, so the easiest way to sort that out would just be to delete keyframes. And let's just hit save. And hop into Premiere Pro, and here's where the huge advantage of using Adobe stuff comes in. We're going to VFX and go main, double click in here, and then I'm just going to bring up a Secret Valentine folder. I'm going to navigate to After Effects comps, drag that down to there, click back over here and just click comp 1. That's going to bring in that which we just created, so just zoom in there, and I'm just going to go that to mark that, which is just /, and then I'm just going to hit render. I see it came up in red, which means it's likely to drop frames, so you wouldn't get smooth playback. That's because this is being streamed from the After Effects composition. And if I just scroll this up, because I've got it set so that I can change opacity, then it will just fade out. So I'll just hide that one and just render that section there where there's the actual opacity change taking place. Just like that, just fade quite nicely. That's one way of doing it. Or you can create titles inside of Premiere like this one, which is very simple. I'm just going to bring up the title screen here, just because it's easy to show what I'm talking about. So you've got a lot of the same controls you would have over in Photoshop for adjusting the actual text and stylizing it. You've got a lot of similar ones, not all the same, but there's quite a lot of ones that you can get it pretty damn close. The vast majority of things are in there. You've got styling, normal tools, which we've also got at the top, title actions, or if you sat in your normal view, all of that stuff will come up in its own little window like so, which is how I normally start off creating them before I start fine-tuning things, where you can easily center text and that kind of thing. And then just to say that it's odd, but you just hit the cross and then that would be done. So yeah, that's titles. If I'm just going to have one more quick look at the titling in the credits. So we did this, which is fairly simple. Just normal credits, name scrolling by. Super simple. So what I did was I went to that frame roughly in the project, hit this button to create an image, then brought that image into After Effects, put that on the bottom layer, added a Gaussian blur, which just blurs it. Then I created text, and just while having it small, I just had I just scale it down a whole bunch and just scroll it up. While having it fairly small text, I just wrote all that out, and then just scaled it to be a nice size. Then just adjusted the position, put it below it, and then after the amount of time above the frame, and then After Effects does the rest for you, and then just simply scrolls. Nice and simple. So it's dead easy. Making titles and effects as a whole are pretty simple in Premiere. So if I was to say, go onto this shot, look at effects, there's many here. I've downloaded some. So for example, if I look at, is there any shots of these that are locked up on a tripod? It's actually like a locked off shot. No, but I think there is here. Yes, I'll look at this one. So if I go into here and click pop that on there. Slight little bit of movement. Just slight. And it does give you all these parameters that you can then play with. Just want to do that. Those are presets that are downloaded. There's the Lumetri ones that use color grading. There's all sorts of audio effects. There's audio transitions are all in there, and you can quite easily create a favorite spin, which is where I have all of my different things I access a lot, like co-op stabilizer, vocal enhancer, etc. Morph cuts, Lumetri color to quickly apply another Lumetri color. So say if I wanted to apply another Lumetri color and have it apply just to Anna's face. I could quite easily mask. Kind of badly, but you can mask quite easy around, and then I could easily, I don't know, change the temperature. And then now she's, well, demented, but effects that are very easy to apply in Premiere Pro, as you can see, very easy to control using the effects controls. They're just parameters that you adjust to fine-tune what you are trying to do, and then you have your effects. So as you can see, we covered the colour grading of colour shots and how to title. And hey presto, you then have quite simply a nicely done colour graded video that's got titles, got effects, or anything you want to apply, all perfectly possible. In fact, it's through the use of this that allows us to actually also, if I look at this, I can adjust the framing in post as well to line it up better and all that kind of stuff. There you go, on a couple of shots I think that was done. If I remember rightly, a couple of these shots I think we slightly adjusted the position. Or maybe not. So yeah, that's it for this video guys, hope you enjoyed. See you guys in the next video. Adios.